Brock Lesnar warns CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, and Jey Uso before WarGames 2025. Brock Lesnar just walked back into WWE after months of absence, pointed at three of the company's top stars, and basically declared war on everyone heading into WarGames 2025, and I'm absolutely furious because this reeks of the same old Brock Lesnar playbook that's held WWE hostage for the past decade. The Beast Incarnate returned on SmackDown, destroyed half the roster in a 5-minute rampage, and specifically called out CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, and Jey Uso as targets before WarGames, and WWE expects us to be excited about this instead of recognizing it for what it really is, another part-timer coming back to take spots away from full-time wrestlers who've been carrying the company while Brock was off hunting or whatever he does between his sporadic WWE appearances. But here's what's going to make you absolutely livid: this wasn't Brock randomly deciding to come back. This was WWE begging him to return because they're panicking about WarGames berates and Netflix debut numbers, and they're so desperate for star power that they're willing to derail multiple ongoing storylines just to have Brock Lesnar's name on the promotional materials. When I reveal what WWE actually paid Brock to make this appearance and how much creative control he demanded as part of his deal, you're going to understand exactly why this company can't build new stars, because they keep running back to the same old safety blankets instead of trusting their current roster. Let me set the scene for this absolute catastrophe of a segment. SmackDown is going normally, we're getting good matches, storylines are progressing, and then out of nowhere, Brock Lesnar's music hits. The crowd goes absolutely nuclear because, say what you want about Brock, the man is a legitimate attraction. He walks out looking like he could murder everyone in the building, gets in the ring, and Paul Heyman, because of course Paul Heyman is with him, grabs a microphone and starts doing his thing. Heyman cuts this promo about how WarGames is approaching, how everyone is picking their teams and drawing their battle lines, and how there's one man who doesn't need a team, doesn't need allies, doesn't need anyone: Brock Lesnar. He talks about how Brock has been watching from afar, seeing who's on top, and there are three men who Brock has his eye on. Three men who think they're untouchable. Three men who are about to learn what happens when the Beast Incarnate decides he wants what they have. Then Heyman drops the names: CM Punk, the man who thinks he's the voice of the voiceless; Cody Rhodes, the man who thinks he's the face of WWE; and Jey Uso, the man who thinks he's risen above the bloodline. And Brock just stands there with that psychotic smile, bouncing on his toes like he's ready to F5 the entire roster. The place is going insane. And I'm sitting here screaming at my TV because this is exactly what's wrong with modern WWE. Here's my first question, and I need brutal honesty: are you genuinely excited about Brock Lesnar returning and inserting himself into WarGames? Or are you tired of part-timers taking spots from full-time wrestlers? No wrong answers, just be real in the comments. Let's start with the most obvious problem: Brock Lesnar is a part-timer. He doesn't work house shows. He doesn't appear on weekly TV except when he's paid extra. He's not grinding on the road with everyone else. He shows up, gets paid more than anyone on the roster, works a handful of matches, and disappears. And every single time he comes back, WWE restructures everything around him because he's special and he draws and he's a once-in-a-generation athlete. All of that might be true, but it doesn't change the fact that his presence actively hurts the full-time roster. Think about what this means for WarGames specifically. WarGames is supposed to be the ultimate team warfare match. It's about factions, about alliances, about groups of wrestlers working together toward a common goal. Brock Lesnar doesn't do teams. His whole character is being the lone wolf who doesn't need anyone. So how the hell does he fit into a WarGames structure? Is he going to lead a team? That contradicts his character. Is he going to be on a team? Then he's not special anymore. Is he going to somehow be involved without being in the match? Then what's the point of bringing him back now? The most likely scenario, and this is what has me so angry, is that WWE is going to completely restructure their WarGames plans to accommodate Brock. They had storylines building. They had teams forming organically. And now they're going to scrap or modify all of that because Brock Lesnar walked in and said, "I'm here, change everything around me," like he always does. That's not good for storytelling. That's not good for the roster. That's good for Brock's bank account and WWE's desperate need for name recognition. Question for everyone: can you name one time Brock Lesnar returned to WWE and it actually helped build new stars instead of just reminding everyone that Brock is presented as better than everyone else? Give me examples if you can think of any. Now let's talk about the three guys Brock specifically called out, because this is where it gets even more frustrating. CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, and Jey Uso are three of the most over acts in all of WWE right now. Punk's return has been incredible, he's finally healthy, he's working great matches, the crowd loves him. Cody is the WWE champion and having the title reign everyone hoped he'd have. Jey Uso has successfully transitioned from the bloodline to being a single star in his own right and is ridiculously popular. These three don't need Brock Lesnar. Their programs were doing just fine without him. But now Brock is here, and guess what's going to happen? CM Punk is going to have to shift his focus from whatever he was building toward dealing with Brock. Cody's championship reign is going to become about fending off the Beast incarnate instead of elevating new challengers. Jey Uso's momentum is going to be interrupted by having to deal with Brock's threat. All three of these men are going to be used as props to make Brock look dominant, because that's what always happens when Brock comes back. And here's the worst part, two of those three guys are probably going to lose to Brock. Maybe all three. Because WWE books Brock like he's unbeatable, like he's on a different level than everyone else, like mere mortals can't possibly hope to defeat the Beast incarnate without getting incredibly lucky or having massive interference. So Punk, Cody, or Jey, or all of them, are going to take losses to put over a guy who's going to disappear again in 3 months. How does that help WWE's future? Let me ask you this, which of these three should beat Brock if they face him, Punk, Cody, or Jey? Or should Brock beat all of them to re-establish his dominance? What would you book? Now let me tell you what really happened backstage, because this is the part that's going to make you absolutely furious. According to multiple sources, and I'm talking people with direct knowledge of the negotiations, WWE approached Brock Lesnar approximately 3 weeks ago because they were concerned about interest levels for Survivor Series and their upcoming Netflix debut. Raw is moving to Netflix in January 2026, and WWE needs massive momentum heading into that transition. They're also worried that WarGames doesn't have enough casual fan appeal with the current roster. So they called Brock. And Brock, as always, had demands. He wanted a guaranteed amount per appearance that's reportedly in the high 6 figures. He wanted creative control over how he's used and who he works with. He wanted to approve any losses in advance. And most importantly, he wanted to be positioned as the most dominant force on the roster immediately upon his return, no slow build, no earning his spot back, just instant main event positioning. And WWE agreed to all of it because they're desperate. The creative team reportedly pushed back. They explained that they had ongoing storylines, that forcing Brock into WarGames would require significant rewrites, that the 3 men Brock was targeting are all unimportant programs that would be disrupted. All of those concerns were dismissed because someone high up in management decided that Brock's name value was worth more than story continuity. So here we are. This is emblematic of everything wrong with WWE's approach to booking. They build their full-time roster carefully, they develop storylines, they create momentum, and then they throw it all away the moment a part-timer becomes available because they don't trust their own product to draw without legacy names. Real talk, do you think WWE would be trying so hard to bring back part-timers if they actually believed in their current roster's ability to draw? What does this say about management's confidence in their own talent? Let's discuss what this does to each of the 3 targets specifically, starting with CM Punk. Punk and Brock have history. They had that infamous match at SummerSlam 2013 that Punk has talked about negatively in interviews, saying Brock was too stiff and reckless. There's real-life tension there, which WWE is obviously going to exploit for the storyline. But here's the problem, Punk doesn't need this feud right now. Punk's story should be about proving he's still the best in the world, about showing that his AEW run and all the drama were just a detour, about reclaiming his position at the top of WWE. Having Punk feud with Brock doesn't serve that story. It's a distraction. And more importantly, if Punk loses to Brock, which is the most likely outcome given how WWE books Lesnar, it undermines everything Punk's been building since his return. It makes him look like he's not on Brock's level, which diminishes his credibility when he moves on to his next program. The only way this works is if Punk beats Brock clean, decisively, in a way that puts Punk over as the superior wrestler. But based on WWE's history with Brock, what are the chances of that happening? Trivia time, CM Punk and Brock Lesnar faced each other at SummerSlam 2013. Can you remember who won that match and how? Test your wrestling history in the comments. Now let's talk about Cody Rhodes, and this is where I get really angry. Cody is the WWE champion. He's the top guy. He's the face of the company. He should be untouchable in terms of how he's presented. But here comes Brock Lesnar, who hasn't been around, who hasn't earned a title shot, who hasn't worked his way up the card, and he's going to be positioned as a legitimate threat to Cody's championship immediately. Based on what? Based on the fact that he's Brock Lesnar and WWE booking says he's special? This is the exact problem with part-timer booking. It undermines your champions. If Brock can just show up and immediately get positioned as championship caliber without doing anything to earn it, what does that say about everyone who has been there working every week? It says their work doesn't matter as much as Brock's reputation. It tells the audience that full-time roster members are inherently less important than the special attractions. And if Brock somehow beats Cody for the title? If WWE puts the championship on a guy who works 4 times a year? That would be catastrophic for the championship's credibility and for Cody's reign. It would undo all the good work they've done establishing Cody as the champion who defends regularly and represents WWE every night. You can't have a part-time champion in 2025 when you're trying to establish consistent TV narratives for Netflix. It doesn't work logistically or creatively. Here's a direct question, should Brock Lesnar ever be WWE champion again given his part-time status? or should that title only be held by full-time performers? What's your stance? And then there's Jey Uso, who might be the most interesting case of the three. Jey has spent the past year breaking away from the bloodline, establishing himself as a singles competitor, and getting massively over with the crowd. His Yeet catchphrase is one of the most popular things in wrestling right now. He's having great matches. He's connected with the audience in a way that feels genuine and earned. And now Brock Lesnar is going to come in and squash him to prove that Jey's not really on the main event level? Because that's what's going to happen if they feud. Brock is going to be booked as this unstoppable force, and Jey is going to be the plucky underdog who tries his best but ultimately falls short because he's not ready for someone of Brock's caliber. It'll be presented as a learning experience for Jey, a way for him to prove his heart even in defeat. But all it actually does is tell the audience that Jey's recent success was cute, but he's not really a main eventer. He's a tier below the true top guys like Brock. That's not building a star. That's building a supporting character. And Jey Uso deserves better than to be fed to Brock Lesnar just to make Brock look good in his first program back. Let me ask, out of the three, Punk, Cody, Jey, who do you think is most likely to actually get a clean win over Brock, and who's definitely getting squashed? Rank them in order of who WWE will protect. Now let's talk about WarGames specifically and how Brock's involvement is going to screw up that match. WarGames works best when you have two clearly defined teams with internal dynamics, history, and chemistry. The match is as much about the team working together as it is about individual performances. So how do you fit Brock Lesnar, whose entire character is not being a team player, into that structure? Option 1: Brock leads a team. But Brock's character doesn't lead, he dominates. He's not a strategic leader, he's a weapon. Having him be a team captain feels wrong for his character. Option 2: Brock is on a team but not the leader. This diminishes his special status and makes him just another member of a faction, which contradicts everything about how he's presented. Option 3: Brock somehow interferes in WarGames without being in the match, affecting the outcome. This is probably the most likely scenario, but it's also completely unsatisfying because it means bringing Brock back just to have him be a disruptive element rather than actually competing. Option 4: WWE completely restructures WarGames around Brock in some weird way that breaks the traditional rules of the match. This could work creatively, but it also means abandoning whatever plans were in place for the match, which brings us back to the fundamental problem of WWE changing everything to accommodate Brock. None of these options are good. They all involve either breaking Brock's character, diminishing his special status, or derailing the WarGames match structure. This is what happens when you force a square peg into a round hole, nothing fits properly and the whole thing feels awkward. Creative challenge: you book Brock Lesnar into WarGames 2025 in a way that makes sense for his character, doesn't diminish anyone, and actually improves the match. Can you do it? Try in the comments. Here's what makes me absolutely furious about this whole situation: WWE has an incredible roster right now. They have more talented wrestlers than they know what to do with. They have young stars ready to be elevated. They have compelling storylines already in place. They don't need Brock Lesnar. But they want him because he's a name that casual fans recognize, because he's familiar and safe, because he's proven to move the needle in the past even if that needle moving came at the cost of everyone else's development. Think about who's not getting opportunities because Brock is here. Think about the young talent who could be in a program with Punk, Cody, or Jey instead. Think about the roster members who are going to be left off of WarGames entirely because WWE restructured the match around Brock. Think about the storylines that we're building that are now going to be rushed to conclusion or abandoned entirely to make room for the Beast Incarnate's latest run. This is the opportunity cost that WWE never seems to consider. Every spot Brock takes is a spot someone else could have had. Every program he's in is a program that could have been used to elevate someone new. Every time WWE brings back a part-timer and positions them at the top, they're sending a message to their full-time roster: you're not quite good enough on your own, we need the legends to make this feel important. Question for the younger fans who maybe didn't grow up with Brock: does his return excite you, or would you rather see someone from the current roster in that spot? I'm genuinely curious about the generational divide on this. Let's talk about the financial aspect, because this matters. Brock Lesnar reportedly makes more per appearance than most WWE wrestlers make in an entire year. He has a sweetheart deal that allows him to work minimal dates for maximum money. And WWE keeps paying it because they're convinced he's worth it, that his drawing power justifies the expense. But is that actually true in 2025? Yes, Brock gets a pop when his music hits. Yes, he trends on social media when he appears. Yes, there's buzz around his matches. But does that translate to increased ticket sales, increased viewership, increased revenue in a way that justifies his cost and the creative disruption he causes? WWE would say yes, but they've never actually shown us the data. They just keep bringing him back on faith that he's worth it. Meanwhile, you could take Brock's salary for 3 appearances and use that money to give raises to 10 full-time roster members who work 200+ dates per year. You could invest in better training facilities, better talent development, better production. You could use that money in ways that benefit WWE's long-term health rather than just getting a short-term spike from Brock's latest appearance. But WWE doesn't think that way. They think in quarterly revenue cycles, in pay-per-view buy rates, in social media metrics. Long-term investment in roster development doesn't show immediate returns, so it's always secondary to bringing back the names that guarantee short-term success. Honest economic question: if you ran WWE, would you pay Brock Lesnar his asking price for limited appearances, or would you invest that money in building new full-time stars? What's better for the business long-term? Now let's address what Brock's return does to the locker room morale, because this matters even if WWE pretends it doesn't. Imagine you're a wrestler on the WWE roster. You've been working every single week, grinding on house shows, doing media, giving everything you have to make WWE successful. You're in a storyline that's building, you're getting over with the crowd, things are going well. And then Brock Lesnar shows up, immediately gets positioned above you, and the program you were excited about gets either delayed or cancelled to accommodate him. How does that make you feel? Do you feel valued? Do you feel like your hard work matters? Do you feel like the company believes in you? Or do you feel like a placeholder until the real stars are available? This is how resentment builds. This is how you create a locker room culture where people are counting down days until their contracts expire so they can go somewhere they might actually be appreciated. WWE has gotten better about morale in the Triple H era. Wrestlers seem happier. There's more creative freedom. The atmosphere backstage is reportedly much improved compared to the Vince McMahon years. But decisions like bringing back Brock and restructuring everything around him undermine all that progress. It shows that at the end of the day, WWE still operates under the old logic: part-timers and legends are more valuable than full-time roster members. And here's the thing: some wrestlers will understand it's business and accept it. Some will be frustrated but stay quiet because they don't want to cause problems. And some will see this and start thinking about their options, about whether they want to spend their careers being second-tier to part-timers, about whether there might be opportunities elsewhere where they'd be valued differently. WWE might not feel the effects immediately, but this kind of thing has long-term consequences for talent retention. For any wrestlers watching, and I know some of you do, how does it feel when part-timers come in and take spots? Can you speak to that experience? Obviously you can't risk your job by being too honest, but I'd love to hear perspective from people actually living it. Let's discuss the Netflix factor, because this is crucial to understanding why this is happening now. WWE Raw is moving to Netflix in January 2026, which is a massive deal for the company. It's a $5 billion contract that could completely change WWE's business model and global reach. But it also means WWE needs to hit the ground running with impressive numbers and star power to prove to Netflix that this was a good investment. So WWE is stockpiling every big name they can get. Roman Reigns is back. Rumors of John Cena's return tour. Speculation about Rock showing up. And now Brock Lesnar. WWE is assembling their Avengers roster to make sure those first few months on Netflix are as big as possible. Consequences to long-term storytelling be damned. I understand the business logic. I really do. Netflix is a huge opportunity and WWE can't afford to mess it up. But there's a difference between bringing back legends for special moments and completely restructuring your creative around part-timers. You can have Brock Lesnar make appearances without having him target 3 of your top full-time stars and derail their programs. You can feature him without making him the center of everything. But WWE doesn't do nuance with Brock. It's all or nothing. He's either the most dominant force in the company or he's not there at all. There's no middle ground where Brock can be a special attraction without diminishing everyone else. And that's a problem that WWE has created through years of booking him as superhuman. Netflix question: do you think Netflix subscribers who aren't current wrestling fans will be more likely to watch because Brock Lesnar is there, or do you think they'd be just as interested in seeing current stars like Cody, Punk, and Jey? Does the Brock factor really matter for new audiences? Here's what should happen if WWE actually cares about doing this right. Brock should come back, but instead of immediately targeting the top stars, he should work with rising stars who could benefit from the rub. Have Brock face someone like Braun Breaker, the young monster who could be positioned as the next Brock. Have him face Carmelo Hayes in a speed versus power match. Use Brock's presence to elevate people who need it rather than cycling through the same established names. But that won't happen because WWE doesn't trust young stars in programs with Brock. They're afraid the young guys will get exposed or won't be able to hang. So instead they match Brock with proven commodities, which creates good matches but doesn't build anybody new. It's the safe choice that maintains the status quo rather than the brave choice that could create the next generation of stars. And regarding WarGames specifically, if Brock absolutely must be involved, make him the ultimate wild card. Have him declared that he's entering WarGames alone, fighting both teams because he doesn't need allies and everyone is beneath him. It's insane, it's unprecedented, but it's also completely in character for Brock and it creates a unique dynamic. Both teams have to work together to eliminate the Beast, and then they can fight each other. That would be memorable and different and wouldn't require Brock to be on a team. But again, that probably won't happen because it's too creative and WWE will likely just do the safe, predictable thing and have Brock join one of the teams or interfere in some standard way. Final Fantasy booking question: how would you use Brock Lesnar heading into WarGames 2025 in a way that makes everyone involved look good and doesn't derail existing storylines? Give me your best creative pitch. Here's the absolute bottom line. Brock Lesnar warning CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, and Jey Uso before WarGames 2025 is WWE falling back into their same old pattern of bringing back part-timers, restructuring everything around them, and sacrificing long-term roster development for short-term buzz. It's understandable from a business perspective given the Netflix transition, but it's frustrating from a creative perspective and potentially damaging from a locker room morale perspective. Brock Lesnar is a legitimate attraction and an incredible athlete. Nobody can deny that. But his presence comes at a cost, the cost of derailed storylines, diminished full-time stars, and the message that WWE doesn't fully believe in their current roster's ability to carry major shows without legends propping them up. CM Punk doesn't need Brock. Cody Rhodes doesn't need Brock. Jey Uso doesn't need Brock. They're all over and doing great work. But now their programs are going to revolve around the Beast incarnate because WWE has decided that Brock's name value is more important than the stories they were already telling. And WarGames is going to be restructured around accommodating a guy whose entire character is about not being a team player, which creates fundamental storytelling problems that WWE is going to have to awkwardly navigate. This is WWE in 2025: incredible talent, huge opportunities, massive business deals, and a lingering inability to fully commit to their own roster without the safety net of bringing back the same part-timers they've relied on for years. It's disappointing. It's predictable. And unfortunately, it's probably not going to change anytime soon because every time WWE brings back Brock, they justify it to themselves as a success regardless of what it costs in terms of everyone else's development. So yeah, Brock Lesnar warned CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, and Jey Uso before WarGames 2025. The Beast is back. The part-timer is here to take spots from full-time wrestlers again. And WWE expects us to just accept it and be grateful for the privilege of seeing Brock F5 everyone because he's special. That's your wrestling business in 2025, great workers being made to look second tier to reinforce that a guy who shows up 4 times a year is inherently better than people who work 300 days a year. And if that doesn't make you at least a little bit angry, then you're not paying attention to how this pattern holds back WWE's future every single time they repeat it.